We looked at the point guard rankings for this year, and if you haven't seen them, the link to that video is the first one in the description, so make sure to check it out. And I'm sure you're familiar with how these videos go by now, so let's just get started. With number 30 going to the Pistons for Wayne Ellington, and it's a very impressive feat by the Pistons to land in the number 30 spot for both the point and shooting guard videos. 29, the Thunder with Theo Maledon. I kind of messed up with the Thunder because I put Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as their point guard in last video, while he's actually playing shooting guard and Theo's playing point, but just for the sake of the video and to keep things consistent, we'll count Maledon as shooting guard and rank him here. At 28, we have the Grizzlies and Grayson Allen, and nothing too exciting for him. He's a great shooter, but I don't see him being too much more than that in the future. At 27, LA has Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. KCP now has the experience of having been a starter on a championship team, which is pretty valuable, but besides that, he's not great, which is why he ranks here. 26, the Bucks and Dante DiVincenzo, who's a good solid role player. He's come a long way in the past couple of years. I don't ever see him being too much more than a role player though, but I did think by now, Justin Holiday at 25 for the Pacers would have been much more than a role player. Early on, he showed some signs that he might get closer to his brother's skill level, but it just never happened. The Nuggets have the 24th spot for Will Barton, who's a good scorer, and he has the potential to have a big scoring game any night, but because he's pretty inconsistent, it doesn't always happen and stops him from ranking any higher. 23, the Wolves and Anthony Edwards, and we gotta give it to the rookie. He's leading all rookies and averaging 18 a game right now. It's not a great sign though that his shooting percentages are so low, basically shooting 40% from the field and 30% from 3, which makes it hard to tell how good he's going to be beyond this first season. But for now, I'd rank him right about here. Then the 76ers take 22 for Seth Curry. Seth has gone from barely being able to make it on an NBA team to being a player any playoff team would love to have. And I have him as shooting guard here because Simmons still is technically playing point. And while Seth never puts up amazing stats, his shooting numbers are what makes him one of the more valuable role players in the league. Bogdan Bogdanovic is another great shooter for the Hawks at 21. And he's got a little bit more to his game. It hasn't been a great year for him so far in Atlanta, but he's on a 4-year deal. And I was gonna say he's still young, but this dude's 28 already. Either way though, he's still got a lot of time to show how good he really is. Number 20, the Magic with Terrence Ross. Ross has continued to play the best of his career in the 6-man role for Orlando. He doesn't really get talked about too much because he's there, but I'm sure we'll see him continue on in that role for another team before too long, because I'm sure he's gonna get traded this offseason. 19, the Warriors and Kelly Oubre. Wiggins or Oubre could be listed as the Warriors shooting guard, so we're going with Kelly just because. And somebody get this man out of Golden State. There's a lot of teams a player like him would be good on, but the Warriors haven't been one of them. For that reason though, the fact that he's still a valuable player is what ranks him this high. Then the Knicks have RJ Barrett at 18, and they really couldn't be any happier with how well he's been playing. His one weakness in his first season was his shooting, but it's clear that he's put in a lot of work and brought his percentages way up this season. And now he's looked great this year next to Julius Randle, so I'm expecting big things from him within the next few years. 17, the Cavs and Colin Sexton. Darius Garland's been playing point guard, which has made Sexton their shooting guard, and I don't really like the idea of a 6'1" shooting guard, but I mean he's been able to average 24 points a game so far, so I guess I can't complain too much. 16, the Mavs and Tim Hardaway, and even though he's accepted a bench role this season, it's easily been the best year of his career so far. He's shooting the best he ever has, scoring just as much, and isn't just a guy that puts up points anymore. Instead, he's been a real difference maker as part of Dallas' second unit, and it's good. He wasn't the best fit with Luka, so this role's been perfect for him. Then the Rockets take 15 with Eric Gordon. Now Kevin Porter Jr. has been playing great for the Rockets as a starter, and Eric's been injured, but he's still by far the Rockets' best shooting guard currently on the roster. He's a two-way player that averages almost 20 points a game, and at the rate this Rockets team is going, he probably won't be in Houston beyond this season. Terry Rozier takes 14 for the Hornets. I included LaMelo as the Hornets point guard, so I'm putting Terry as their shooting guard, and they both could have been listed as either position. But I always believed in Terry since he left the Celtics. Now, I don't know that he deserved $20 million a year, but over the past two of them, he's done a solid job of living up to that hype. 13, the Kings and Buddy Hield. At this point, I don't even know what to say about Hield anymore. He's a good player, not much has changed with him over the past 3 seasons really, and maybe if he was on a better team he'd rank higher, but for now he just doesn't. Then at 12 we have the Pelicans and Eric Bledsoe, and Bledsoe's never really been the best offensive player, but he ranks here because of it and mainly his defense. And I don't really like him at shooting guard for the Pelicans or playing that position for any team really, and I'm surprised the Pelicans have kept him this long. But whether he's a perfect fit there or not, he's a good enough player to rank this high. And same for Marcus Smart in the Celtics at 11. Now I do think that he's a good fit in Boston, but he's also never been the best scorer, but has been known for his elite defense, even though his offense has been coming around pretty nicely the past couple years. Number 10, we have the Spurs and DeMar DeRozan. It's been a quiet year for DeRozan. Actually, it's been a quiet few years. He used to be at least a top 3 shooting guard in in the league for a while there, but that's changed ever since he left Toronto. DeMar will still give you 20 a game, but somehow still can't shoot threes. Speaking of the Raptors though, that brings us to number 9 with them and Fred VanVleet. This year couldn't possibly have been worse for Toronto, but VanVleet's made the most of it. He's having his best year, and again, I don't really like the idea of a 6'1" shooting guard, which he is, but I do think he's in a position where he's going to be able to nicely transition to point guard once Kyle Lowry leaves the team, so it's all going to work out there. Number 8, the Heat and Victor Oladipo, and that's kind of weird to have said for the first time, and Victor might be out for the season with this knee problem, but even if he is, we'll just base this off of how well he played in the games he actually did play in, which were mostly for the Rockets, and he was looking just like his old self. I didn't know if he'd get back to that level ever, but he was, even though the Rockets as a whole really sucked. Then we got to give the Trailblazers number 7 for CJ McCollum. CJ came out on fire to start this year and has cooled off since coming back from his injury, which is pretty sad, but at least he's remained consistent, and it's been enough to keep him as number 7. For number 6 though, it's the Bulls and Zach LaVine, who's without a doubt one of the best shooting guards in the entire league. Every single year he's been in the league, he just keeps getting better, and the man's got very little weaknesses in his game. If he was able to bring his team wins though, he'd rank a lot higher. I mean, the Bulls got a pretty talented roster, so I don't know if it's more on LaVine or Chicago now. Devin Booker at 5 for the Suns had that bad stigma on him too for years, and I think one day Zach will get it off of him just like Devin has, because Booker's now still every bit the scorer and as efficient as he's always been, except they're now second in the West. And it's weird that just a player being on a winning team can bring them so much more validity. Number 4, the Wizards and Bradley Beal. And okay, look, I just said the whole thing with how LaVine's on a bad team and about Devin Booker winning, but Beal's is a little different, alright? The Wizards team is trash, and Beal's averaging 30 a game for his second straight season. We all know it's not his fault, we can all agree on that, so let's all just agree that he's at least the 4th best shooting guard in the league, so we can move on. For 3 though, we had to give it to the Clippers and Paul George, and Paul's a small forward really, but himself, Kawhi, and Batum are basically all playing the same position for the Clippers, so I had to put one of them as a shooting guard, and it ended up being PG. And I had to rank him at number 3 higher than a guy like Beal, because he has the scoring too, not as much, but he has it along with top tier defense. Number 2, the Nets and Kyrie Irving. And I know this throws things off again, but I talked about it last video. Kyrie and Harden swapped positions for this year. It feels weird, but it's what happened and it's working. And Kyrie ranks here because, I mean, statistically, and even just what he's been doing on the court, for him, I think this has been his best year yet. Plus, he's a proven championship player, and the reason number 1 beats him out is because it's Donovan Mitchell for the Jazz. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not just being a Utah Jazz bandwagon or anything, just because they have the best record in the league, but Donovan's averaging 27 a game and has led the Jazz to that record. Which, remember, Kyrie Irving isn't a leader, so even though he's won a championship, he's a second option type of player, and he's not a great leader, so it would have been hard to rank him over Donovan Mitchell, who's been one of the best leaders in the league the past few years. So for the first time ever, he takes the spot as the number 1 shooting guard in the league. And I know that may be controversial just like the rest of the list, so if you have a different opinion, comment it down below and let me know what you'd most likely change and why. I'm open to seeing things from other people's opinions, so let me know. Like and subscribe for the Small Forwards video if you enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you next time.